Hi everyone, and welcome as I continue this series looking at directors' first films. And so now we are going to continue with F. And again, I'm only showing movies that I have in my physical media collection. So keep a lookout, chip in with comments of any movies that you may have. Here we go. First up, we have Australian director Peter Feynman, who, along with John Cornell, the producer, had worked with Paul Hogan on his TV show, and in 1986 he directed the original Crocodile Dundee. And I've mentioned before, John Cornell, the producer, went on to do Crocodile Dundee 2. But yeah, Peter Feynman, not many other films to his credit, but he did direct Dutch, starring Ed O'Neill and written by John Hughes. British director Ferdinand Fairfax. Now, he's mainly worked in TV. He passed away in 2008. He was BAFTA nominated for his TV series Winston Churchill, The Wilderness Years in 1981. And then he followed that with his very first movie as a director, and that was Nate and Hayes, also known as Savage Islands. I've talked about this one before on my channel, and this movie has just recently received a Blu-ray release by Imprint. James Fargo, he's an interesting one. Now, he's been an assistant director on early Spielberg movies, including Duel and the Sugarland Express, as well as being an assistant director on early Clint Eastwood movies, such as Breezy and The Outlaw Josie Wales. But for himself, as a main director, his first one was working on the film for Clint Eastwood, which was The Enforcer in 1976. And a couple of other movies that he's directed include Caravans and Clint Eastwood again in Every Which Way But Loose. Valerie Faris. Now, I've talked about her co-director before, Jonathan Dayton. So similarly, Valerie has been involved in a lot of music videos before she entered directing movies. But the first one, along with Jonathan Dayton, she co-directed Little Miss Sunshine, and then also went on to direct Battle of the Sexes, also with Jonathan Dayton as co-director. Working with his writer brother Bobby, Peter Farrelly has been best known for directing comedies and started in 1994 with Jim Carrey and Jeff Daniels in Dumb and Dumber. They went on to do movies such as Kingpin, There's Something About Mary, and Me, Myself and Irene, before, rather bizarrely, in 2019 winning a Best Picture Oscar for directing Green Book. As an actor, Jose Ferrer was the first actor of Puerto Rican descent to win the Academy Award for Best Actor when he performed as Cyrano de Bergerac. But as a director, his first film came in 1955, and it was this World War II spy mission drama, The Cockleshell Heroes, in which he starred alongside Trevor Howard. After making short movies, director Todd Field started his movie directing debut in 2001 with the Oscar-nominated In the Bedroom, an intense drama starring Sissy Spacek, Tom Wilkinson and Marissa Tomei. He followed up in 2006 with Little Children, starring Kate Winslet, and then a big gap until his next Oscar-nominated movie, which was Tar in 2023, starring Cate Blanchett. Legendary actor W.C. Fields, star of such movies as The Bank Dick and My Little Chickadee. Now, officially, he's not a director. However, in 1935, when he was making his movie The Man on the Flying Trapeze, he did have to take over directing duties, uncredited, from director Clyde Bruckman, the legendary director of Buster Keaton's The General. Unfortunately, Clyde Bruckman was succumbing to alcoholism, and this, The Man on the Flying Trapeze, was Clyde Bruckman's final movie before he then fell out of work and really sadly eventually shot himself. But yeah, Man on the Flying Trapeze, an unofficial credit for W.C. Fields. Director Mike Figgis was born in Newcastle, and in 1988 he set his first film in Newcastle. It was Stormy Monday, a really good crime drama, this one, starring Tommy Lee Jones, Sting and Melanie Griffith, with cinematography by Roger Deakins. Other films that he's directed include Internal Affairs, starring Richard Gere, Liebestraum, a remake of the Browning version with Albert Finney, and perhaps most noteworthy of all, in 1995, he directed the Oscar-nominated Leaving Las Vegas, starring Nicolas Cage and Elizabeth Shue. Director David Fincher has come from a music video background, and I think it's pretty safe to say that his very first film in 1992 is not considered his favourite, and that is Alien 3, starring Sigourney Weaver. So yes, he ended up being Oscar nominated 3 times for his directing of The Curious Case of Benjamin Button, The Social Network, and Mank. And of course, he's also directed Seven, Fight Club, Panic Room, and many more. As an actor, Albert Finney has been in one of my all-time favourite British movies, which is 1960's Saturday Night and Sunday Morning. As an actor, he's also been nominated 5 times for his acting performances, and he had huge success in the 60s. He was Oscar nominated for being in Tom Jones, and really, as a sort of snowball from his success of that, he was able to actually get the opportunity to direct his first and only film. It had a delayed release. It came out in 1968. It was this one, Charlie Bubbles, which had a first acting role as well for Liza Minnelli. This is a really, really interesting film, really about disassociation with life, I suppose. But based on a play by Sheila Delaney, who had also written A Taste of Honey. But yeah, really fascinating movie. Jack Fisk, he's the husband of actress Sissy Spacek, and he's also been Oscar nominated 3 times for his art direction and production design work for There Will Be Blood, Killers of the Flower Moon, and The Revenant. As a director, he began his career in 1981, directing his future wife, Sissy Spacek, in Raggedy Man, alongside Eric Roberts and Sam Shepard. Really fine drama, this one. He also directed Sissy Spacek again in Violets Are Blue, alongside Kevin Kline. And then he also directed in 1990 Daddy's Dyin', Who's Got the Will, starring Beau Bridges. Ryan Fleck has worked a fair amount in TV, working recently on Masters of the Air and previously on shows such as Billions and The Affair. But in 2006, that's when he had his feature film debut, working with another Ryan, and that was Ryan Gosling, on Half Nelson. He's also directed films such as Mississippi Grind and Brie Larson in Captain Marvel. Director Ruben Fleischer started in TV and music videos before in 2009 directing his first film, possibly his best one, and that's this one, Zombieland, starring Emma Stone, Woody Harrelson, and Jesse Eisenberg, and he also directed its sequel, Zombieland Double Tap. In addition, he's also directed Gangster Squad and Venom, starring Tom Hardy. Peter Fonda, son of Henry Fonda, brother of Jane Fonda and Bridget Fonda, legendary actor from Easy Rider, Oscar nominated for his performance in Uli's Gold. As a director, only 3 films to his credit, but his first film as a director really is a classic one and definitely worth seeing. It's this slow burn western, The Hired Hand, in which he also stars alongside Warren Oates. Gorgeous cinematography on this by Vilmos Zsigmond. Bryan Forbes, for me, he is hugely significant in British cinema as an actor, a writer, a director, and a studio manager as well. As a director, his first film came out in 1961, a really utterly charming film, which is Whistle Down the Wind, with an early role here for Hayley Mills and Alan Bates in this as well. Absolutely glorious film. Other films that he's directed, which I really love, are Seance on a Wet Afternoon and The Whisperer. But he's also directed other classics, including The Stepford Wives, The Slipper and the Rose, King Rat, and others. Hugely significant, Bryan Forbes. Milos Forman, now he's a director. You could really split his career into 2 brilliant parts. In his early career, he had fantastic films made in his native Czechoslovakia, including his debut film Black Peter, and then Loves of a Blonde and The Fireman's Ball. He went on to work in Hollywood and had Oscar-winning directing success as being the director of One Flew Over a Cuckoo's Nest and Amadeus, and he was also nominated for directing The People vs. Larry Flint. Bob Fosse, absolute legend as a dance choreographer. He choreographed one of my all-time favourite musicals, which is The Pajama Game, starring Doris Day. As a director, he started in 1969, directing Shirley MacLaine in Sweet Charity, great movie, and he really went from strength to strength. His next film was the Oscar-winning Cabaret, starring Liza Minnelli. He directed Dustin Hoffman in the Oscar-winning Lenny, and he directed Roy Scheider in the Oscar-winning All That Jazz. His final film also is one that really should be checked out. It is Star 80, starring Mariel Hemingway, and a career best performance from Eric Roberts. Jodie Foster, of course, best known as an actress. She started as a child actress with films such as Taxi Driver and Bugsy Malone, has gone on to be Oscar nominated 5 times for her acting performances, including winning twice for The Accused and The Silence of the Lambs. As a director in 1991, she started performing as well in Little Man Tate, a nice little drama this one, and she's also gone on to direct The Beaver, starring Mel Gibson, and Money Monster, starring George Clooney and Julia Roberts. Actor Jonathan Frakes has been closely associated with Star Trek The Next Generation, playing the character of Commander William Riker. In 1996, he got the opportunity to direct a Star Trek movie, and that was this one, Star Trek First Contact. And he's also been involved in quite a lot of TV work, as well as other Star Trek episodes that he's directed. Australian director Dean Francis maybe hasn't had the best directing career. He started in 2010 with this rather disappointing one, Roadkill, also known as Road Train, which starts off like Duel before then going into a different direction. Quite a bizarre film, this one. His other film that he has directed was Drown in 2015, and since then he's been making music videos. Okay, I'm going to possibly cheat a little bit with this next one. I'm going to talk about director Georges Franju. Now, technically speaking, I suppose his first film was in 1959, and it is a movie that you can get on physical media, or on DVD at least, which is La Tête contre les murs. I don't have it, but I do have the other film that he made in 1959, which is a very famous one. It's in the Criterion Collection. It is Eyes Without a Face. Really great movie, this one. And Georges Franju also has directed Judex. British director Stephen Frears has had a long directing career. He started as an assistant director for the likes of Carol Rice and Lindsay Anderson, and he actually helped Albert Finney with his one and only directing film Charlie Bubbles, which I mentioned earlier. But for his first feature film, it was also actually with Albert Finney as an actor, and that was Gumshoe in 1971. And he's gone on to direct such classics as Dangerous Liaisons, The Grifters, High Fidelity, Prick Up Your Ears, and My Beautiful Laundrette. Director Gerald Friedman has mostly worked in TV, but in 1972 he directed Raquel Welch in the roller skating drama Kansas City Bomber, and he's also directed Charles Bronson in 1980 in the film Borderline. E. Max Fry, quite an interesting one, just one film to his directing credit, which he also wrote, and that was in 1993, and it was this rather poor comedy, to be honest, Amos and Andrew, starring Nicolas Cage and Samuel L. Jackson. As a writer by himself, he has had a much better career. He worked on the script for Jonathan Demme's Something Wild in 1986, terrific film. He worked on Band of Brothers, and he was Oscar nominated for his screenplay of 2014's Foxcatcher. Danish director Nikolaj Fjulsig, just one directing credit to his name at the moment, when it came in 2018, and it was 12 Strong, starring Chris Hemsworth, about US Special Forces going into Afghanistan. Okay, those are the first feature films that I have in my physical media collection. How did you get on with that lot? Have you seen any of those? Do you have any other directors that you can share with me, their first films? Let me know in the comments. Please do join me again for this continuing series as we go through directors' first films. I hope you're enjoying it. But yeah, really enjoy the comments. Thanks very much for those. A shout out as well to Sammy G's World of Cinema. He recently did a video kind of inspired, if you like, by this series, series where he talked about actors who had turned directors, so go and check out Sammy G's World of Cinema. And also a thank you as well to Solitary Ronin Films. He also did a great video just the other day in which he went through some of the films in A to D so far that he has in his collection. And Solitary Ronin is a great complement, if you like, to this series because he collects movies in a different way than I do. So yeah, he has some great additions. Okay, thanks very much for watching this. Hopefully I will see you again. All the best. Bye-bye.